Donald Trump was so deeply offended, his feelings were so hurt by Jimmy Kimmel's jokes about him that he tried to get him canceled and had government officials look into making it happen. This is according to a new report based on 2 former Trump administration officials who said that Trump was, again, so upset by Jimmy Kimmel's jokes that he directed his White House staff to call up one of Disney's top executives to complain and demand action. Now, Disney, of course, owns ABC, where Jimmy Kimmel Live airs. Here's what the former officials told Rolling Stone. In at least 2 separate phone calls that occurred around the time Trump was finishing his first year in office, the White House conveyed the severity of his fury with Kimmel to Disney. Trump's staff mentioned that the leader of the free world wanted the billion-dollar company to rein in the Trump trashing ABC host, and that Trump felt that Kimmel had, in the characterization of one former senior administration official, been very dishonest and doing things that Trump would have once sued over. So he was president of the United States when he did this. Let me just, for those who are concerned about government encroachment on our First Amendment rights, here it is.
And by the way, for all of those hosts who are super worried about comics being canceled, they think that's the #1 issue in America. Not that 45,000 people a year die because they don't have health insurance, not because 100,000 people die because they're on fentanyl and meth, et cetera, because of addiction issues. The #1 issue is comics getting canceled. Well, here's your beloved Trump, he wanted to cancel a comic. So next time you talk about cancel culture, are you gonna talk about this? Isn't it weird how they never talk about right-wing cancel culture?
And by the way, government officials hitting up executives of whatever company to silence or censor anyone. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans, it's wrong and it is against the First Amendment. Okay, no one cares about your hurt feelings, Trump. As a government official, as a president of the United States, you don't have the right to censor a late night host who's making fun of you because your feelings are hurt.
Remember, Trump then later in the 2020 ran his entire convention for re-election on freedom of speech. It was mentioned in almost every speech. In the major speeches in those nights, we covered the entire convention. The #1 issue was freedom of speech. While Trump is going, they make fun of me. I don't want him to have freedom of speech. And the third thing is, right wingers, pick a man. And then by that, I don't mean gender wise. I mean just pick someone who isn't such a little bitch, okay? He's such a crybaby.
He really is.
How do you not see it?
No
Everything is
more.
crying. I lost my $7 million, but I should have won.
Okay, more details. So a third former official, Trump administration official, who worked in the Trump White House, of course, recalled, at least one call was made to Disney that I know of. I do not know to whom, but it happened. Nobody thought it was going to change anything, but Donald Trump was focused on it, so we had to do something. It was doing something mostly to say to Trump, hey, we did this.
Yeah, we've seen that from Trump insiders in story after story, where Trump has this insane request.
Yeah. You got it, buddy. You got it.
Yeah, and
we're on it.
And since he's a little baby, they give him a pacifier. They stick it in his stupid orange mouth. And he's like, did you look into Jimmy Kimmel getting him fired? They're like, we did here, suck on this, okay? And then so look, one time he's like, how about we increase our nuclear arsenal 10 times what it is now? That'll make me so big, everybody will know how big my button is. And that's the meeting that his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, not a good guy, was CEO of ExxonMobil, right? But not brain dead, walked out and said, oh my God, this guy's an effing moron, right? And they're like, don't worry about it. We'll just tell him we looked into it and stick a pacifier in his dumbass mouth, and then we'll move on with our lives. He doesn't matter, he forgets anyway.
It's amazing. So one target of the White House's pressure campaign against Kimmel was a lobbyist for Disney by the name of Richard Bates. So Trump's staff reportedly reached out to Bates to convey his anger regarding Kimmel's monologues and jabs. The incident was so bizarre that news of it spread around the corridors of power in Washington, D.C. Other administration officials who had nothing to do with the pressure campaign began hearing from their contacts at Disney about how confused they were that the White House kept telling them Trump wanted Kimmel to tone down his anti-Trump humor.
Okay, so two things about this, guys. One is, understand that this is not a thing that just happens to comics or just happens under Trump. Government officials do this all the time, okay? So if you're worried about cancel culture and freedom of speech, et cetera, they are real issues, right? And so you know who got, in a sense, like moved down from prime time to the weekends because they were worried about his tone? Me, okay? Literally, and by the way, Phil Griffin admitted the tone part. He was the head of MSNBC at the time. When I was a host at 6 o'clock on MSNBC, the head of MSNBC said, I was just in Washington and they're not happy with your tone, okay? So a lot of times, both Democratic and Republican administrations call into these media outlets and they say to them, hey, and that's the code word that they both use. They say, and Phil Griffin said to the New York Times in explaining the situation, oh no, it wasn't over substance. We were just worried about his tone, okay? That means you're criticizing the powerful and we don't like it, all right? So now we call them out when the Democrats do it, and they did it to me, right? Right wingers, can you call it out when your guy does it? Or are you that hypocritical that you're only in favor of freedom of speech when it affects you, but not if you want to get someone fired because they offended the beloved Donald Trump?
I just think when it comes to the whole free speech debate, both sides are full of crap. I'm just keeping it real. Both sides are 100% full of crap, okay? The right pretends as though they're free speech absolutists, but they don't hesitate to shut down someone who engages in speech they don't like.
A billion times, guys, we've given you so many examples. Like, hey, you're gonna criticize Israel, that's it, we're gonna take away your government contracts. I mean, it's a direct violation of the First Amendment, and they're here for it. They love that censorship. Hey, I don't like books in Florida, that's it, ban them, etc. You guys love just real, but no one in media says it, including mainstream media. They're like, oh no, it's only the left that does cancel culture. Oh yeah. And the left, you have these outrageous examples too.
No, I mean, look. My favorite example is when, and this comes up ever so often, when we want to quote Martin Luther King Jr. and he has the N-word, not the really bad N-word, but the other N-word in his quote. And we're like, what do we do? It's Martin Luther King Jr. Like, do we read his quote verbatim or do we censor Martin Luther King Jr. when we read his quote?
Look, I hate to say it, but I had to do it in my book because the publisher asked me to do it. So there's Lee Atwater, the deeply racist Republican, admitted how racist they were in the Southern Strategy and used the N-word like crazy. And I had to put it in, but take out the middle of the word. But it's a direct quote from a racist, and you're taking away the power of it, and yet
you're sanitizing what he said.
Don't. In my opinion, you shouldn't sanitize it. But what am I going to do? And so there's all of these folks who want to cancel everybody based on the slightest transgression, and they said this when they were in 7th grade, and etc. No, the correct answer is more speech. And by the way, that means both right wingers and left wingers. You can't cry about other people's speech criticizing you, right? Because the right wing's like, oh, man, I get to say whatever I want. I get to be racist. This word, that word. You're criticizing me. Oh, ban them, okay? I mean, recently they started doing book burnings. We've lost our mind as a country.
100%, 100%. I just want healthcare, and I want people to have better working conditions and better pay. Like I wish we could get to a place in this country where we focus on making people whole instead of engaging in these like fake fights, right? Where both sides are full of crap. But we're never gonna get there, right? Because the culture wars will suck the life out of us because that's what they're intended to do.
All right, last thing, look, we're being consistent on this show. I defended Don Imus, Megyn Kelly, even Rush Limbaugh, et cetera. When they said outrageous things, I said the answer isn't firing, it's more conversation, et cetera, right? But the people who cancel folks the most is corporate media, okay? So how do they do it? I have an example in the book, tyt.com/justice if you want to get it. You can pre-order it now. Anyway, it's the Ashley Banfield story. She spoke out against the Iraq war and they took her off of all of their air, okay? And they said, how dare you? It was in the economic interest of the corporation she worked for at the time, that was General Electric, which was a giant defense contractor. You are not allowed to say things that are against our economic interest. That's the real cancel culture, and that happens all the time to both sides. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.